All right, so let's look at another free-form tool that we can use. Here's where reference planes are really helpful. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete this right now because we don't need that anymore at the, or you know what? I'll bring it back. I'll leave it to the side right now. Let's go and put another in-place mass in. So how do we do that? We can come over here and we can go to where? We can go to massing and site, in-place mass, right? And we'll call this um, uh, free form, free form, free form surface, right? Okay, so here's what's interesting. Notice that I cannot automatically grade out is the reference plane function when I'm in the 3D view. A reference plane wants you to draw it in a regular level or datum. So I've got to go. So watch what happens to this when I go to level 1. Now it's available for me. So what I'm going to do is I am going to draw a reference plane. I'm going to draw a series of them. So here is one, right? And then let's say 15 feet away, there's a second one. And then another 15 feet away, there's a third one. And notice I can change that automatically by touching them. Now, what you always want to do, people, is name your reference planes. Do you have to? No, but it'll be very difficult to find them if you don't. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to name this number 1. And it can be this simple. This is number 2. And then this, you see dynamically I can change that as number 3. Or when I click it, notice in the project browser I can change the name over here. So if I wanted to call it Joel, I could call it Joel. I don't want it to be Joel, so I'm going to go back to number 1. Okay, so hopefully it went back to 1. That's 2, and this is 3. All right, so we've got those reference planes in here. That's great. Well, how does that help us? Well, I'm going to go back to a 3D view, and I'm going to say that I want to show the plane. So I can click, and I'm showing that plane right now, but I don't want to particularly show this plane to draw on. So what do I want to do? I want to set a work plane. So when I say set, I click there. Notice now on the check down, I can say, give me reference plane 1, but I don't see it. So I have to show it. Once I set it, then I can show it, okay? Now, just so you know, a reference plane is infinite, right? So in this view, you know, if I go to a south elevation and I say, set the work plane, I can go in here and say, give me reference plane 1 and say, okay, and then show it. There it is in that view. So now I can see it here and I can see it in that view. Why do I like doing that? Well, now that I'm in the south elevation, instead of doing this now, I could do the same thing in the 3D view. Keep that in mind. But I'm going to go to the south elevation for it because I know this reference plane is closest to my south elevation, right? So when I'm in the south elevation, I'm going to draw a freeform. So I'm going to go to the spline. I'm going to click just the regular spline tool, not through points, but through a spline. So I'm going to draw this now, right? And then I'll go over here and I'm going to click model. There we go. That's 1. Now I'm going to say set my work plane to reference plane 2. And now I'm on number 2, right? Even though I can't see it. But now if I go to 3D, notice I'm going to be on reference plane 2 when I start drawing. So let me go back to my south elevation. And I want to say, now I want to draw another spline, but I want my placement plane to be reference plane 2. So now I'm going to draw here. And I'll go back here. And now I'm going to try and see if I'll make this work. I'm going to say I want to draw another spline. And I want to go to reference plane 3. And in reference plane 3, I'm going to click here. And notice, again, I'm just kind of freestyling, freeforming, right? And I'll go back here and click that. Okay. So now I'm going to go to this. And now you see the view is specific to the reference plane that's set. So you could see, even though in the south elevation I'm drawing in reference plane 3, what's showing in 3D is reference plane 1. So if you want to take that off, you can do that. Now I've got these 3 shapes out there, and you're like, well, Joel, what's the purpose of those? Let's remember our friend, right? If I click 1, hold down control, click the second and the third, I can create a form now. And once I create a solid form, now I have what? An interesting shape, don't I? Very interesting. Sarah's loving this right now, right? So as we look at this right now, what's cool about this is if I hover and tab and click there, I can now, and we're not going to get into divide surface a lot for another few days, but if I click on divide surface, notice I can control the grid, the U portion of the grid and V portion, which is kind of like the horizontal and vertical. And then, right, I can finish that. Or when I click on that surface, guess what I can put in there? I can put a curtain pattern in there. And we're going to talk about the curtain patterns that we can put in there, right? So I can do all kinds of really sharp stuff with this, people. And I think that's the stuff you're really, really going to like. But notice I can divide that surface. And not only can I divide that surface, right? When I click on it, notice that can I pull that surface and move it around? And I can configure the layout. And if you remember, not only can it be horizontal, right? But it could be what? It can also be diagonal. So you see how we can create all these interesting patterns with this freeform shape. And then I finish the mass and I say, oh, I got to save this. That's terrible. I should have saved this a long time ago, people. My fault. I'm going to go in here and go to my J drive. And then I'm going to go to my projects. And then I'm going to go to my class. Bear with me here, people. All right. So 256, lecture 14. All right. Oh, hold on a second. Okay. And hopefully it's saving now. And so now I kind of have this cool mesh surface, right? And what you're going to see in a few days is how we're going to be able to build our own curtain panels and put them within these mesh shapes. So you can see whether you use a tool like Rhino or another freeform tool like SketchUp, this is a much more, what I like is how this is a much more controlled environment. And it seems to me that it's a lot easier to go in and edit this way, right? So if I can click that one, I can change this one to 45 degrees as well. And then that mesh shape is changed in a different direction now. And now I'm going to be able to apply curtain panels. Now, the problem is that you're going to have to get them to be the right size. So what's going to happen is you'll click on this and you see this U grid and this V grid. You're going to have to do adjusting, fine adjusting, to get it to work the way we want it to work. And that's going to be the challenge. And that, people, is just going to come with your tenaciousness in getting in there and changing values as you need them. For instance, if I want this to be half of that, I can go in and apply that. And now that's probably going to work out a lot better for me. And even then, if I look, there's 6 in that direction. What if I say there's only 10 in this direction? So you're going to have to find ratios that work better for you. And again, this is for us to get more into freeform design and masking. So imagine now putting some kind of column under there and using a column to hold up those 4 spaces right there, or designing your own mask column now to put under there. So we're opening up Revit in a way that we've never used it before. And hopefully this is going to be something that's very helpful for you as you go forward. So I'm going to go ahead. We're about 10 minutes. We'll stop this video and then we'll take some questions. Just a moment.